I guess you've listened to the new song by the Beatles Now and Then, or otherwise you would not be watching this video. At least, that's what I think. So if you haven't heard it yet, then go give it a listen. I felt so many different emotions when I heard the song for the first time. It was a strange mix between joy and sadness, like this ultimate sense of melancholy. But apart from Lennon's hauntingly beautiful voice, what caught my ear was the chord progression of the verse. It just sounds so intimate and emotional, but it also reminds me of something very old. What people often forget is that the tempo of the music is also very important. In Now and Then, the medium slow tempo really helps set the mood. If you want to learn more about this, then afterwards check out my video about how a different tempo can completely change your song. So what if I told you that the verse progression of Now and Then is the same as an age-old chord progression that's been used for many centuries by all the great composers, and even by the Beatles themselves already? And wouldn't it be great if we could use this progression to write our own music, or to just improvise leads and write great melodies on top of it? These are the chords that John Lennon plays during the verse. The E minor/G chord might need some extra explaining. Every regular chord has a root, a third and a fifth in it. The E minor/G is just a normal E minor chord, but instead of the root note E, the G is the lowest note. G is the minor third of E minor. So when a chord has the third in the bass, then we call it a chord in first inversion. Now what about that music history lesson? Well, here it goes. A bass line that composers have used for many centuries is one that walks down 3 notes of the minor scale. In A minor, the bass line is A, G, F, E. This is called the lament bass. It goes from the root of the minor scale down to the fifth. Now the next step is to harmonize this bass line with chords. And you could do it, for example, like this. Did you notice that except for the first chord, we only have major chords in this progression? This chord progression is called the Andalusian Cadence, and this is a term adopted from flamenco music. And I'm pretty sure that you've heard it before, because it's used in practically any style of music. There's also a more minor-oriented and maybe even more subtle way to add chords to this bass line. For example, you could do it like this. We replaced the G and F major chords with an E minor and D minor in first inversion. So the bass line stays the same, just the chords on top are slightly different. And composers in the past would add extra attention to the ending. Just listen. Now let's get back to the verse chord progression of Now and Then. When we take out all the chord repetitions or chord variations, we are left with this. Now compare this with our lament bass chord progression. So apart from the medium slow tempo, what's the secret sauce to getting that melancholic tone? I think that the part where you play the minor tonic chord and the minor dominant chord in first inversion is what makes it great. It creates a wonderful sound, and I could play this progression all day. An idea could be to just play those two chords in your verse and then use the full chord progression as your chorus. So I advise you to use this beautiful chord progression, because if you don't do it, somebody else definitely will. Now, if this video was interesting and if you learned something, then help me out by liking it and sharing it with somebody else. And don't forget to check out the links in the description to the best books on songwriting, composing and music theory. Stay inspired, stay creative, and for now, see you next time.